Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. But it feels like a summer day around here. Not complaining. It's just pretty hot and humid. And to the south of us, they're getting some storms. It looks like we're probably going to be all right today. But tomorrow, the chances of severe weather increase dramatically. I mean, they're talking like tennis to baseball size hail, potential for tornadoes. We are kind of on the edge of where that's potential. So, I mean, we're still in the area of the possibility, but the really, really bad stuff looks like it's going to be east of here. But we will see, because you never know with the weather, especially here in the Ozarks. I mentioned either this morning or yesterday or something about Russia building up the size of its army. They are taking in tens of thousands of new recruits every month. They've been just doing some big campaigning on building up new troops. And there's reports now that they're adding another 640,000-ish troops to their ranks in the battlefield. They're sending that many over in the battlefield. Putin fired their ground commander and appointed a new general. And there's information from the United States, U.S. officials are stating that they believe that it's a possibility that Putin is getting ready to start a new push, and that his goal is to push all the way to Kiev, at least to the outskirts of Kiev. That doesn't sound like someone that's really wanting peace, but of course it could also just be a show of force to try to get the West, Ukraine, United States, Europe to kind of back down a little bit, or at least make them blink, make them think. The peace talks that were meant to be between Zelensky and Putin are going on, but Zelensky and Putin aren't there. Putin's not interested in it. Russia called this a big show, that it's just all an orchestrated mess, which is exactly what I've been saying about everything, that it's all orchestrated. It upsets so many of you. It's funny things that, 2 or 3 years ago, if I had said something like that, a year ago, if I had said something like that, most of the people that listen to my channel would just, hoorah, that's right. But now, because there's someone different in Washington, in the White House, and I make a statement that this is all a big scam, that it's all a big orchestrated play that's being put on in front of you to get you sucked into it, that really upsets people. Believe what you want. Watching me is not going to change that. But there's just too much to show to indicate that. I mean, another thing, and this isn't necessarily a topic that I was going to say, but I'm going to throw this out there. The Great Reset. The Great Reset, something I've talked about extensively on this channel. And the vast majority, 99% probably of you, have been concerned with it and aware of it and against it. Well, now it's being said, well, the Great Reset is happening, but it's just now happening under Donald Trump. Can't think of his name right now. It just slipped my mind. But anyways, I'll put the little thing up here because it just slipped my mind. But he's talking about this. It's the Great Reset. It's happening whether you like it or not. But now the players have changed, and it's a good thing because Donald Trump's doing the Great Reset. I just, that's just a little too dangerous for me to be that excited about the Great Reset happening. It's just being done differently with different actors. But I don't know. Hey, that's you do you, I do me. You don't like it, don't watch. I don't care. Sometimes the truth hurts, and I'm kind of known for speaking my mind and sticking my foot in my mouth sometimes, and not being afraid to speak the truth. Something else, not really getting much play on the news because all this stuff within the Middle East and Russia and everything's getting talked about a lot. This is back here at home. Many of you are aware of this, that there's been a bill or a push in U.S. Congress. I mean, before I say this, you got to understand, we have what many believe is one of the most conservative presidents, at least in a long time, and control of Congress by conservatives. So why not take this opportunity like we've had many times in the past, to push through some good conservative legislation, right? That's not how they do it. Because they're all bought and paid for. They're all actors. I mean, I'm repeating myself, but it's true. Anyway, so there's been this push in Congress to either get rid of or redo the NFA, which is the National Firearms Act. For those of you that aren't gun enthusiasts, that's the act that came out in the 30s that said that, you know, automatic weapons, suppressors, short barrel rifles, shotguns, stuff like that, they're not really illegal to own. They're just difficult to own. You have to jump through a lot of hoops, pay special and taxes to get this stuff. And it's completely against the Constitution, the Second Amendment. And it's never really fully been challenged, but because there's always this worry that, well, if we challenge it, then what if we lose? So now we're supposed to have conservative judges, conservative Congress, conservative president. So let's take care of this. So they've got this bill in Congress, and guess what? The Republicans, not the Democrats, the Republicans gutted it. They gutted out the suppressor and the short barrel rifle thing. That you still have to pay all that. It's still there, which is absurd when you really get into the whole silencer. They're not silencers, they're sound suppressors. They reduce the high decibels, but you can still hear it. If you've never shot with one, it's not like the movies. It's not a whisper quiet. But anyways, they gutted that, and they're focusing on making the bill so that law enforcement all across the country can carry concealed anywhere they go, which we already have that. That's already a thing. So my point to all this is that for those of you that think that we're just absolutely winning, right? I see that all the time in the comments. We're winning. Really? What so far? What's been definitive that we've won? Because there's not been any peace deals confirmed. There's not been any trade deals confirmed. All of this trillions of dollars and business that's being worked out in the Middle East, that's not confirmed. It's possibly going to happen, but it's not confirmed. Nothing on paper. You don't have the Epstein files. There's all kinds of stuff. You know, the amount of illegals that's being kicked out is nowhere near enough to get it all done. Not even close. In fact, I think still, I may be incorrect. I know for a while, the daily deportation numbers were actually less than they were under Barack Obama. And we've got a Congress, and I know you can say, well, that's not Donald Trump. Okay, well, he's the leader of the party. Why doesn't he get his hind end in gear and say, hey, we're in charge now. We want freedom and liberty and all this kind of stuff. Let's get this done. Why? Because he's not a real gun-friendly kind of guy either. I mean, he was the one that did the bump stock ban when he was president before, said take the guns now, we'll worry about rights and stuff later. He's not a friendly. That was my first real thing that turned me off about him a long time ago, and his past history. Oh, and I want to say this. For those of you still watching this channel that think, man, why does he all of a sudden not like Donald Trump? Like, what's changed about him? You're probably fairly new to the channel, because I've been making videos before 2016 when Donald Trump was elected. Before then, okay? And I was not a supporter of him then. Well, yes, I mean, he was better than the other side, just like he was better than the other side this time. But I saw through it, and I saw that his past character, the things that he actually said, not what it sounded like, what he actually said. So I wasn't a big fan of him then. So I just want to make that clear. And yes, you can still be a conservative, like staunch libertarian, conservative constitutionalist, and not support the Republican Party candidate, okay? But anyways, we have a government that's doing some crazy things, good and bad, it's all crazy. But they have proven once again, that they're not there for your constitutional rights. They're not there to protect the firearms and the guns and stuff like that. They're not. And so even though this bill may sound like, well, it's a loss, that doesn't mean, everything's bad. It should be taken as an indicator this bill they should be pushing this. Any decent conservative should see this and say, listen, we need to gut the NFA. We need to get rid of the NFA because it's a complete violation of the Constitution. And if they can't even do this, to me, that is a sign that we're not in a greatly better place than we were before. We're in a different place, but it doesn't necessarily mean better. Different isn't always better. It may look better, and there may be certain aspects of it that's a little bit better. But the real hardcore stuff, like life, right to life, we're not seeing that. Not in this administration. Guns, we're not seeing that in this administration. Just saw today that, you know, all this talk about reduction of taxes for people on Social Security is probably not going to happen. It's unlikely to happen. You know, the reduction of taxes on us, it hasn't happened. You know, the tariffs was going to supposed to help lessen the income tax burden on the American people, but now we're reducing those again. So I guess those aren't going to help, and we're not going to bring jobs back to America if we're going to drop the tariffs. It makes no sense. You know, either you do it or you don't. It's this back and forth on the fence stuff that's irritating me. You know, go all in or walk away. But if you believe that everything's good because, you know, all the good guys, quote unquote good guys, are now in charge, you need to wake up. They had a chance to fix a big, huge wrong of complete, blatant violation of the Constitution, and they didn't do that. And that should be something that causes you to kind of sit up and pay attention. Should cause you to get a little bit more prepared. Go out and stock up on some boomsticks and some freedom seeds. Because as things get crazier, and as costs go up, and as the trade war continues, because it's certainly not over yet, those things may eventually. And if we get into a full-scale war with Russia, which I know some of you are rolling your eyes at that, remember I just said, I think yesterday, that the commanding general of NORAD, spoke before Senate committee hearing just a few days ago and stated that there is a chance, a possibility, maybe not a real strong one, but there is a possibility that at some point in the near future, U.S. troops will have to face off against Russian troops on the battlefield. If we get directly involved into a war, whether it's Russia or China or Iran or whatever, things like ammo can completely dry up. You know, most of your big, I've talked about this before, even though there's lots and lots now of these small mom and pop ammo manufacturers, the bulk of ammunition made in the United States is still made by like 3 big companies. And they have contracts with the government. And their contracts say that if the government has an emergency, like a war, that they need it, they cut off civilian production and they send it all to you know, the military. And these smaller companies, they're not going to be able to keep up with the civilian demand. So if that happens, well, you kind of can figure out the result. And seeing this how they're handling this NFA thing tells me that they're not in favor of us. They're certainly not in favor of our rights. They don't trust the American people. They're in fear of us, which is a good thing. But it also means that they're doing things that they know they shouldn't do because they got to keep the guns out of our hands. And you should get yourselves prepared for the day when you might need to use them for some reason. More than, you know, shooting raccoons out of your chicken coop. Get your houses in order, folks, and prepare mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.